जय श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की जय, श्री गौर निताई की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, शिला गुरुदेव की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। Thank you all for coming to today's Bhagavatam class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So today's verse is from Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, verse 26. Aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amrisyatam manabhangam amrisyatam balopiyam hridadate balopiyam hridadate yat samathur asadvachaha aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate yat samatur asadvachaha aho teja kshatriyanam manobhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate yat samatur asadvachaha. Aho tejam kshatriyanam manabhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate yat samatur asadvachaha. Aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate yat samatur asadvachaha. Aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate yat samatur asadvachaha. Aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate yat samatur asadvachaha. Aho teja kshatriyanam manabhangam amritsyatam balopyam hridadate Yat samatur asad vachaha. Aho tejas kshatriyanam mana bangam amrityatam. Balo apiyam hridadate yat samatur asad vachaha. Thank you, Loka. Synonyms. Aho. How surprising it is. Teja. Power. Kshatriyanam. Of the Kshatriyas. Manabangam. Hurting the prestige. Amritsyatam. Unable to tolerate. Balaha. Only a child. Api. Although. I am. This. Hrida. At heart. Date. Has taken. Yat. That which. Sa matuha. Of the stepmother. Asat. Unpalatable. Vachaha. Words. Translation. How wonderful are the powerful Kshatriyas. They cannot tolerate even a slight infringement upon their prestige. Just imagine, this boy is only a small child. Yet, harsh words from his stepmother proved unbearable to him. Purport. The qualifications of the Kshatriyas are described in Bhagavad Gita. The two important qualifications are to have a sense of prestige and not to flee from the battle. It appears that the Kshatriya blood within the body of Dhruva Maharaj was naturally very active. If the Brahmanical, Kshatriya or Vaishya culture is maintained in a family, naturally the sons and grandsons inherit the spirit of the particular class. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, the samskara or the reformatory system is maintained very rigidly. If one fails to observe the reformatory measures current in the family, one is immediately degraded to the lower standard of life. Mukam karoti vakshalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vetamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarvyasha Kripa Sindhobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 4:8-26. So we are discussing from chapter 8 of Dhruva Maharaj, leaving home for the forest. So Narad Muni is responding to this event which has happened. So we know that Suruchi has chastised young Dhruva. Dhruva is very hurt and Dhruva very upset. He gets hurt. He's going and sharing his upset to his mother Suniti. Suniti said, what can you do? I have no choice but just listen to Mother Suruchi has told. Just go to the forest, do pray to Lord Vishnu, get his blessings, so you can also get what you needed in your life. So Dhruva is on the way to the forest, and Narad Muni, by Lord's mercy, he understands what has happened. He is all, because he has that empowerment from Lord. So Narad Muni understands without even anybody going and informing him that this is what happened to young Dhruva. He already knows it. So he comes, and the way he responds is also very extraordinary. We can see as we go. So in this verse, Narad Muni is saying, Aho Teja Kshatriyanam, right? So he's saying, just see the power of Kshatriyas. Manabangam Amitsyatam. They cannot tolerate the dishonor. Now this event is extraordinary. What has happened to young Dhruva is extraordinary. And why? Because Dhruva, even though, we as devotees, we know that we are supposed to tolerate any dishonor that happens to us or any offense that is committed against us, we have to accept it, right? But here, Dhruva is actually showing his intolerance towards dishonor, correct? So Narad Muni, his response is also very extraordinary to this event. Usually we are told, just accept it. Tinadapi sunichaina tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadahari. So just tolerate. Even there is dishonor, just tolerate. Right? So we consider tolerance as a very great virtue. Narad Muni is appreciating this intolerant behavior of young Dhruva. He's saying that it's a virtue of Kshatriyas. He also mentions that it is very glorious of Dhruva behaving like this. Isn't it contradicting? Like we are always told that we have to be accepting and tolerant to whatever others defame us or dishonor us. But here Narad Muni is appreciating Dhruva's behavior of he being intolerant towards dishonor. So how can we understand that? And in fact, not only that, he is even going to the next step of, Narad Muni is going to the next step of appreciating Balo apiyam hridadate. Although he is just a child, not only Kshatriyas have great sense of honor, even as a child who is 5 years old has this quality. He is not able to accept dishonor. His blood is boiling. Yet samatur asad vachaha. These words are coming not from any stranger. The words are coming from his mother. Even that, this young boy couldn't tolerate it. So that's what we have to note here. So in usual terms, the children accepts whatever mother chastises, right? But here, it's a stepmother, and he understands that it's a dishonor, that is not able to sit on his father's lap. He considered it as very offending, and he doesn't tolerate it. So while we explain these while I explain this verse, I would like to actually pick three terms and bring in what is. There are three different terms, but there is some relation. We'll try to understand what it is. So the terms that we pick today is related to the sense of honor that Dhruva is trying to get, but in fact what he's getting is dishonor. So the sense of honor, should this be appreciated? Pride, should this be appreciated? Or arrogance is the three words that we are going to discuss about and find out what the differences are. In usual context, pride, arrogance and sense of honor, almost in the dictionary you can say it is synonymous, right? Originally we would consider, if one is pride, then we will think, okay, he's very arrogant person. And then if he is, the more one is arrogant, it's also because of the honor he gets. So it's all interrelated. But when Prabhupada had written these verses, pride and arrogance and sense of honor had the similar kind of meaning, and the connotation would be towards the um, bad side of things. But now in today's world, nobody considered pride as something very as a bad thing or something. They still put it in a good context, and then they say, for example, if i if I finish a very hard task, so then I say I take pride in completing this task, right? So in also you can see today, in today's world, the hotels are named and it's called hotel pride, executive pride. But on the other hand, we don't see hotel arrogance. So still in today's world, the pride is taken in a positive note, whereas arrogance is taken in a negative sense. So what used to be pride before is now we are calling it as arrogance. What is arrogance? Arrogance means one wants to show off his ability, or one is full of oneself, right? And so if one is always talking too much about oneself, would anybody want to speak to that person? Would anybody like that person? No, right? So that's the universal feature. So nobody wants to relate or connect to somebody who always wants to glorify someone. So that's the nature of arrogance here. So giving an example of how pride can be good, so we take an example of cricket. So where there is a 5-match series, two teams are playing, one team wins the first 3 matches. So they've already won the match, right? But what do we say these days? We say, the other team says, no, I'll still play as a matter of pride, not for the trophy, not for showing off anything, but I want to play it as for the pride, and they continue to play. So this also shows that pride is again taken in a good context, whereas arrogance is on the undesirable side. And coming to the term where we want to discuss the sense of honor, which Dhruva is wanting, right? So how is it that sense of honor is a good thing? From this context, Srila Prabhupada actually quotes or mentions the qualities of Kshatriyas in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita 18:43 says, Shauryam tejo dhritir dakshyam yuje chapi apalayanam danam ishvara bhavascha shatram karma svabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Usually, the verse here says Ishvara Bhava. We would consider that to be a defect because it denotes a sense of controllership, right? And that is considered to be laudable qualities of the Kshatriyas. Yudechapi apalayanam. The Kshatriya will never run away from the battlefield, and this is also a laudable quality. So we noted in the purport that there were 2 important qualities for the Kshatriyas, which is, one is the Kshatriya will never run away from the battlefield. And what is the other one? The sense of prestige he'll try to maintain, or sense of honor he'll try to maintain. So what we're trying to say here is, it's the sense of honor is having a good connotation, and it inspires one to act honorably. So Srila Prabhupada had given initiation to a devotee, and this devotee couldn't follow all the 4 regulative principles, and in a letter Srila Prabhupada writes to the devotee, what sense of honor do you have? You gave a word in front of the deities to follow these 4 regulative principles, but now what are you doing? He's trying to say, it is not that the sense of honor means, okay, the whole world should respect me, right? It says that sense of honor means I'm an honorable person. If I give a word, I'll keep it. That's the idea. And I will act in honorable ways. So it is not about oneself, but it's about the act one is trying to express. So for the Kshatriya, sense of honor is very important. Why? Because it will allow the person to act in honorable ways. If a Kshatriya can easily be distorted by the power that he or she possesses, the power itself can make a person corrupt absolutely. A sense of honor, if it's ingrained in that person, that Kshatriya will also be protected. How? The way the Kshatriya acts. Like if somebody comes and asks a Kshatriya for protection, he gives protection to the person. If somebody comes to a Kshatriya and asks for charity, Kshatriya immediately gives for charity. And if Kshatriya asks for, if a sage comes to a Kshatriya, then Kshatriya immediately gives respect to the sage. So if these qualities of are ingrained in a Kshatriya, this Kshatriya is actually expressing them because it is being taught to the person and he is expressing it in a honorable way. So by following on these activities, a Kshatriya is able to make progress in his path. So one might say, we are not Kshatriyas, we are not Brahmanas, we are not Shudras, we are not the body, we are the soul, right? So in one context, yes, it is true. But can we immediately go to the platform that we are not the body, we are the soul? Not possible, right? So we cannot artificially reject our bodily identity. One may understand that I am the soul, but I am the soul, but I have to live in this body for my life, right? So without me acknowledging the bodily nature, I can't progress. So we cannot wish away the bodily identity, but we have to walk the way through it. So Prabhupada actually quotes in Bhagavad Gita verses. So what does Krishna say to Arjuna in verse 2.13? Dehinosmin yata dehe kauvaram yauvanam jara. Yeah, no, it's okay. So kauvaram yauvanam jara. He mentions that I am not the body. Yeah. So he says that one should think of them as a soul. But in the previous verses, what does he say? One who doesn't think of the body, what does Krishna say about them? Ashosyan anvasochastvam prajna vayam shabashashe. You are actually speaking of learned words, but you are a fool, Arjuna. So, dhirastatra namuyati. So, a sober person will identify with the body. Doesn't identify with the body, but he identifies himself as a soul. So, again, so these two verses, Krishna is saying you should not identify with the body, you are a soul, and if you don't understand this, you are a fool. Arjuna, even though you are speaking learned words, but you are still a fool. But then, in verse 14, what does he say? Matra spashashtu kaunteya shitoshana shukka dukkada agama painos nityam tam stitikshvara bharata. So in this verse, Krishna is actually mentioning Kaunteya. So when he mentions Kaunteya, he is trying to connect to Arjuna in the bodily level, which means, oh son of Kunti. So you are son of Kunti. So you are coming from a lineage where you have a good mother, so you are honorary. And second word which Krishna uses to make Arjuna identify with the body is Bharata, the Bharata dynasty. So he actually refers to the lineage in which he is coming, which is Bharata dynasty. So one may say Kunti is a very great devotee, so Krishna is actually relating to Kunti, so that's okay. But then he is also referring to Bharata dynasty, which means that not everybody in the dynasty are very good, that we can relate Arjuna to that dynasty and speak about him. So these verses actually doesn't completely reject the bodily identity, but Krishna emphasizes that we have to have the bodily identity until we come to a realization that we are no more the body. Right? So, in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, there are so many names mentioned about Krishna and so many names mentioned about Arjuna. Out of that, 50% of the names are all referring with the bodily context. Say, for example, Vyagra, imagine a man like tiger, right? A person with the body of a tiger, or Kuru Nandana. Krishna is addressing him as Kuru Nandana. Sakshi, one who is expert in arrows. So being expert at arrows and be identifying with the Kurus and identifying with the body of a man who is in the form of a tiger are all relating to the bodily concepts. So what we are trying to say here is, the important point is, even though Bhagavad Gita emphasizes on understanding that we are not the body but we are soul, but there is also emphasis on one relating to the bodily feature or bodily identity. Because one might be a doctor and one might be passionate about whatever he or she is doing, or one might be a brahmana or a kshatriya. So the inherent nature cannot be changed all of a sudden, right? It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So we have to start from where we are. So we are Narad Muni is helping Dhruva identify with his Kshatriya body, and he is denoting that you being a Kshatriya, you are expressing intolerance. That's fine. And so in these verses where Arjuna is being called as Savyasachi, what is Krishna trying to do? Krishna is dovetailing Arjuna's bodily identity to inspire him to follow in the path of Dharma, and by following in the path of Dharma, what will happen? One will realize hers or his spiritual identity, right? So at a philosophical level, we all understand, yes, we are not the body, we are the soul. We have to reject the bodily identity, but we have to take the spiritual identity. But as a matter of realization, it comes slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. And so in order for us to pursue in the spiritual path, what helps us is the constant determination, a lot of motivation, and a lot of inspiration to take up difficult tasks. So when Arjuna is saying, when Krishna is saying to Arjuna that you have to tolerate it, Bharata, so Arjuna is saying, I'm sorry, I can't, it's very hard, I can't tolerate all of this. Krishna says, you're a glorious person, you are come from the Bharata dynasty, you have a glorious family, you are a person who usually does Herculean tasks, what are you worried about? Go march in the path of Dharma. And this, so he brings the connection with his mother and his illustrious dynasty, and he is actually, Krishna uses the sense of honor for Arjuna to actually help him or inspire him to progress in the path of Dharma. It's not just Srila Prabhupada, right? It's not just Krishna, right? It's also Srila Prabhupada who actually encourages one to actually use the bodily platform and progress in the path of bhakti. So when Srila Prabhupada was in America, what did he say to the Americans, disciples? So the American disciples, they came to India. So Prabhupada was like, see, you're Americans. Indians look up to you as leaders of the society. If you are American and you are not doing anything, why are you calling yourself American? Because Indians have a glamorous view of you, Americans. So do something extraordinary that the whole world will look at you. So like that, it is not that Prabhupada says you're a soul, so don't do anything and sit idle, right? So he's saying, use your bodily platform, identify whatever nature you have. You being an American, no problem. You being an Indian, no problem. Whatever you have, use it in Krishna's service, and at the end of the day, you will get in the path of Dharma and you'll identify yourself. So it's not on, so it's the Americans also hearing to what Srila Prabhupada said, with no resources. They had come to India. They wanted to do more lot of festivals. They invited a lot of people, and when they Americans had conducted those festivals, it seems 25,000 to 30,000 people used to come for the program, attend it, and get benefited. So the encouragement which Srila Prabhupada gave had motivated the Americans to do from nothing to on a massive scale, that they were able to achieve and greet people to come and attend the program. It's not just for Americans, Prabhupada explained like that, right? So when he came to India, in Pune, uh, or even before the Juhu temple was built, so he addressed to the Indian audience, he's saying, see, do I have to bring the Westerners or people from all over the world to preach Krishna conscious to you? Isn't that in your tradition? Don't you have to learn this Bhagavad Gita yourself and preach this message of Krishna consciousness to everyone? Why should I bring people from all over the world? So why don't you take it up? And then people got encouraged, and then many Indians also started following Krishna consciousness. Like this, we have to use, or Prabhupada and Krishna is showing by example on how we can use our bodily identity. We don't have to reject it and dovetail it to follow the path of Dharma, and eventually rise to identifying what our spiritual identity is. So we have experience in sharing Krishna consciousness with others, right? So what we have to note is, many people are identifying to their body. That is our conditioned nature. One might think, oh yeah, I'm a doctor, I'm a businessman, I'm from so and so country, you're from this country. So if we don't have that sensitivity towards what one is associating with, how one is associating with their bodily nature, then would it be easy to preach? Let's say, for example, I'm going to a doctor and I'm speaking as though like a businessman, very transactional. So there's no to a doctor that I have to speak. Oh, you're a doctor. I want to. I should show interest that I am taking in, trying to understand what he or she is doing. Right? Then I'll make friends with them. Otherwise, it will go in distortion. If it's to a businessman, then I talk to him like a by level. So I talk to him like a businessman. Or if it's to a child, then I talk to the child in the way the child likes it, right? So one is identifying with the body, whether it's a child or whether it's a big person, businessman or engineer or doctor. But without understanding what one's interests are, how they are identifying with the body, if I try to make connect to the person, it's of no use. So that is why the sensitivity is very important. And the standard example which we hear is, the sadhu's words are meant to cut, and the cutting is like a surgeon's knife which cuts to heal. So a teacher would actually know how to deal with a particular person. It's not that he or she will not cut the wounds. Yes, misconceptions are there in every patient, in every soul, in every person. So that has to be healed. How? By understanding the nature of treatment that the person needs, the surgeon will apply the knife, right? So other concept that we have to understand is sentimentality. Sentimentality means that I know if I cut this person, the person is going to bleed, and because the person is going to bleed, I am saying, oh, there will be so much blood coming, I can't treat this person. Or if I cut this person, the person will have lot of wounds, the person will be afraid. So like this, people don't give sentimental reasons and don't want to follow in the path of dharma, or don't want to do their duty. An example could be, I might be a good public speaker, but I don't want to use my skills in preaching Krishna consciousness. I might say, oh, but I'm not qualified, Prabhu, Mataji. There are so many qualified people, let them go and preach. And oh, sorry, I don't have time to do this particular service, not today but tomorrow. So sentimentally we are seeing that as we are unqualified, we don't want to take up that service, we want to give some excuse. So we are saying, if I start preaching, then the person might get hurt, the person might be irritated, so I don't want to preach. But we have to start somewhere, right? So that is why Krishna is saying, wherever you are, don't go sentimental. Follow, understand the sensitivity of the person and start preaching. And then you will be able to, at one day, you will be able to take one person or more people in the path of Dharma. So it's like, it's basically to, now we got the difference, right? So we have, in the name of preaching, if we do, or if we do surgery to a people, or if we, without being sensitive to the feelings, if we give just a talk, then it means that we are not giving the right knowledge in the right form to the people. It means like, I'm a surgeon, I'm going to, I know that you will have pain, so I will not give you anesthesia, but I'll still cut you, right? So this is like, without showing any sensitivity to the person, we are trying to give that pills, or we are trying to give treatment to the person. So all we are trying to say here is, we have to understand the nature of the people, understand what is their interest, their bodily identity, and treat them accordingly. So that shows how much a value we give to the person. There are a lot of examples we can give where people were not treated correctly, and they have got offended and they have left Krishna consciousness. So one is the mode of presentation, like, that's very important thing. How you present Krishna consciousness is very important. Next comes the content or the substance. I go to one Damodar program, I see that one preacher is giving lecture. It started with 30 minutes lecture, then it became 1 hour lecture, then it became 1.5 hour lecture, then it's even going for 2 hours. It's just a Damodar program, right? So are we considering that this is a new audience who have come for the program? I have to give them in small bites, not like 1 hour, 2 hour lecture. So we are making people suffocate sometimes in the name of we think, okay, today is the day, the person has come, I have to give everything I know in Krishna consciousness. Done. So yes, they'll be done for that day and they will never turn up again. So it's basic. So that is what we are doing, right? So again, when we go on the streets of Harinam, I heard this in a lecture. It seems Indradumna Maharaj was going on the streets, and then when they were crossing a hospital, or when they were crossing a creche where small babies used to be there, then somebody came and notified Maharaj that, you have, don't be so loud, because we have a old age home or a creche here, so where babies might get scared. So try to be a bit lower in your volume. Then immediately Indradumna Maharaj said, everybody stop doing Harinam. And then they walked for maybe 200, 400 meters, and then Maharaj said, okay, now start. So the one devotee who was there with Maharaj said, Maharaj, why didn't you allow us to chant Krishna's name there? Because this is the only time they get to hear Krishna's name. If not today, then they can't hear any time, right? Then he said, no, there is time, place and circumstance for everything that's going to happen. So in that way, we have to be sensitive to people's needs and nature, and that's how we preach. And just because I'm cooking in my home, if I say, devotees, don't come inside my home, if you smell, it's an offense, I have not yet offered, will it look good? No, right? I'm cooking for whom? First to the lordships, but again, whom am I offering? To the deities. So it shouldn't be like we are offending the deities and we are taking care of the deities. We know that example, right? And another example I've seen is some years back, in my initial days of Krishna consciousness, one visitor comes and asks Tulsi plant to a devotee couple, and then they say, Mataji, are you initiated? what is initiation? The Mataji is asking. Should I be initiated to have this plant? And then I'm like, see, in India, if you go to any shops, they will be distributing freely tulsi plants because most of them are pious people, so we just give them off. So nobody asks for qualifications. But if we put somebody in a spot and say, are you initiated? Then only I can give you this tulsi plant. People get upset, correct? So we have to be watchful and be sensitive of how we deal with devotees. And at once I mean sometime back I used to see a Bhakti Viksha leader. He normally doesn't talk to people, right? And if he talks, he only talks about Krishna consciousness. And observing this leader, like this devotee was watching this person. He's very like a person who thinks a lot. So this person who is observing, he's somebody who thinks a lot. So he's watching this person only talking about Krishna and no joke, nothing jokes, no nothing. Serious, only Krishna or nothing. So then he felt, came and expressed, no, sorry, I don't want to be like this person. So I don't want to take it any further. I'm not coming to temple anymore. So this is the expression we got. So to a person who is starting Krishna consciousness, we give so much that the person can digest. Say for example, to a baby, we can't start with full cream milk, right? We first start diluting with water, then we start giving little 1 spoon at a time, trying it out. A mother will know, okay, I can give only so much to the baby. She'll try it out. Nothing happens, then she'll give a little bit more. Then she'll give a little bit more. So that is how we have to try with the new people who are coming, and that is how our preaching or teaching Krishna conscious philosophy should also be. So we can say a lot more examples. We can be a bit more personal with people when they come and talk to us, and treat them with sensitivity. So for them, we should give them a positive samskara. It shouldn't be like, okay, I went there, somebody irritated, so I'm not going to go there again. So when Prabhupada was asked, how would you define a devotee? Prabhupada said that devotees are perfect gentlemen and ladies. Prabhupada did not say, okay, somebody who's getting up only at 4 o'clock in the morning are devotees. Only people who are following 4 regulative principles are devotees. Or people who are constantly chanting in the Kirtan are devotees. No. Somebody who's understanding the needs of others, being sensitive to others, being a gentleman, gentlewoman like people are considered to be devotees. So, one might be in Uttama level, but the person always comes down to Madhyama level to preach. I might be somebody not in that level, but I might not go down, but I might want to go up, because I'm mostly in order for me to be in the mode of passion or mode of goodness, I have to go 4 steps up. Currently what I'm thinking, my state is I'm in the mode of passion and ignorance. So that is how we have to think of ourselves. So if we have to preach to others, we have to think, okay, if the person is really senior, then he will get down to the level of Madhyama and preach. But if you know that you are not in that level, we have to at least go to the mode of goodness and preach devotees. Otherwise we are thinking, even though we are in a mode of passion and ignorance, we think like I am in transcendence, and in that level we preach. So that's why we give everything in undiluted form. We give everything concentrated. So then it becomes without sensitivity that it reaches the audience. So be watchful on what we are giving to others. And so from all of this, what we understood is basically Narad Muni, how he responds to Dhruva's characteristics of Kshatriya. So he addresses to the point of the sense of honor. We discussed about the 3 terms: sense of honor, pride and arrogance. We saw that pride and sense of honor are today, in today's world, we are marking it in good connotation, whereas arrogance is not. So the sense of honor, how it can be appreciated and dovetailed to Krishna, we saw it. So currently one might identify with the body, but eventually one will understand that one will understand his spiritual identity. So we discussed about Bhagavad Gita verses 2.13, 11 and 2.14, and we found out that how Krishna uses the word Kaunteya and Bharata to make Arjuna identify with him, with his body. By making him identify with the body, he is eventually showing him the path of dharma, so that he can understand the path of dharma, and he understands his spiritual identity. Srila Prabhupada also uses the same tactic, tells Americans how as Americans they can do something extraordinary, and he makes Americans do extraordinary things. Similarly, he tells Indians how you can still identify with the body and still make glorious things by reading the Bhagavad Gita. So what we have found is, even though Bhagavad Gita emphasizes on understanding that we are not the body, we are the spirit soul, but by using the bodily nature also, one can transcend their current mode of bodily identity and go to identify their spiritual identity. We also saw that in preaching, if we show some sensitivity towards others, then our preaching will be effective. And if we understand what is their bodily identity, then it makes our preaching even more easier. We can become friends with them and give the message in a diluted format, not in a very concentrated format. Alright, thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Yes, please. Okay. So, what is the question? Yes. Varna Shankara means, can you explain Varna Shankara? Yeah. So the samskaras are definitely important. When our Guru Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj, especially propagates the message like whatever samskaras that you do before the baby is born, after the baby is born, and we also know till death we have samskaras, right? So right before conception also we start doing the samskara, the pujas. Why do we do that? Because the samskaras leave a positive note on the subtle body of the baby. So even before we are born, we are preparing to give positive impressions to the baby. And while it grows also, it could be the first Annaprashna ceremony, or it could be the naming ceremony, or it could be, the girls have the puberty ceremony and marriage ceremony and death ceremony. All this ceremony are performed, so we might have started as Shudras, right? So by giving the samskaras, one might become elevated to the next stage, Vaishyas, then Kshatriyas, then Brahmanas, then Vaishnavas. So one can transcend all this regular thing by immediately becoming a devotee. But samskaras are a must. It's important. Whatever is told in the scriptures, if we can follow, great. If you're not, then there is always Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is more potent than any other mantra. We can still follow and delete the negative impressions on us. Yeah, correct. Any other questions? Comments?